The Stung the jungle was alive with strange sounds. Leaves whispered even when there was no wind. Creatures hid in the shadows, their glowing eyes watching silently. A human explorer walked carefully, his boots pressing against the soft alien. Soil beside him moved the alien girl, tall and graceful, her skin faintly glowing under the forest light. They were searching for rare plants, the kind that could heal or kill. The human carried scanners. But the girl relied on her instincts. She could feel the pulse of the forest, as if it spoke to her in ways no machine could. The air buzzed, faint at first, then louder. The human stopped, raising a hand. The alien girl tilted her head, her ears sharper than his. Something was moving above them, among the twisted, glowing branches. A shape darted in the light, wings shimmering like glass. It was a bee, but not like any bee from Earth. This creature was larger, the size of a human fist. Its body glowed with golden veins, and its stinger burned with a strange fire. The human whispered, "Careful." But before the words left his lips, the bee struck. It moved too fast. A flash of light and a sting. The alien girl gasped, clutching her arm. The human rushed to her side, eyes wide with fear. The stinger pulsed, sending veins of light spreading under her skin. Her body trembled, and she fell to her knees. The bee rose again, circling above, as if guarding its work. Then it vanished into the forest shadows, leaving behind silence. The girl breathed hard, sweat on her forehead. Her arm glowed where the sting had struck. The human knelt, trying to pull out the stinger. But there was nothing, only light remained, burning and alive. "Stay with me," he said, his voice steady. But his hands shaking, her eyes flickered, glowing for a moment. Then returning to normal, she winced, whispering in her own language, words he could not understand. Her body shivered as if fighting something inside. He held her shoulders, trying to calm her, but he could feel heat radiating from her skin. It was not fever, it was something stronger, something unnatural. The forest seemed to respond. The plants bent toward her as if sensing her change. The air grew thicker. The buzzing sound returned faintly. The human felt a chill. Though the air was warm, he had seen alien wildlife before, but nothing like this. The girl tried to stand, her legs weak, her glowing veins spreading across her neck. "Something is happening," he whispered, but she was already ahead of him. She raised her head, her glowing eyes locking onto his. For a moment, he did not see the girl he knew. He saw something else, something more. He pulled out his medkit, spraying healing foam on her arm. But the foam melted away as if rejected. His scanner beeped wildly, unable to process the changes. The girl clutched her chest, breathing fast. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked into an echo. The human leaned close. "Don't fight it," he said softly, but inside, fear twisted his heart. Was this poison or transformation? Was he watching her die, or was he witnessing the birth of something new? She grabbed his wrist suddenly, her grip strong, almost too strong. "Don't leave," she whispered, her voice shaking. The human nodded. His eyes locked on hers. He would not leave, not now, not when she needed him most, but deep inside. He wondered if he could even help. The forest, the bee, the sting, it all felt like a trap, as if the world itself had chosen her. And he was only the witness, powerless. The glowing veins spread further, tracing patterns like alien symbols across her skin. She screamed, her voice echoing through the jungle. The cry shook the branches, sending hidden creatures fleeing. The human held her, whispering, "You're not alone." But even as he said it, he wondered if the girl he knew was already gone. Then, silence. The jungle froze. The air still. The girl slumped in his arms, her glowing skin dimming but not fading. The human's breath came heavy, his mind racing. This was no normal sting. This was a beginning, a door opening to something far larger. He felt it in his bones. Whatever had started here would not stop. The bee had left its mark, not just on her body, but on destiny itself. The human looked into the forest shadows where the bee had vanished, and for the first time, he feared that this alien world was watching them back. Strange changes begin. The human did not sleep that night. He sat beside the alien girl, watching her chest rise and fall. Her skin still glowed faintly, light pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Every time the glow brightened, the forest around them seemed to react. Leaves trembled without wind. Small creatures crept closer and then darted away. The human felt the weight of something unseen pressing against him, as if the world itself was leaning in to watch her transformation. When dawn broke, her eyes opened slowly. They were no longer the same soft eyes he remembered. They flickered with golden sparks like embers beneath the surface. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked with strange echoes. It was still her voice, yet something alien vibrated beneath. The human reached out, steadying her as she sat up. Her movements were slow but unnaturally precise. Every gesture carried a new strength, a new sharpness. It frightened him, but also filled him with wonder. She touched the sting mark on her arm. The skin there was no longer bruised. Instead, it shimmered with fine glowing lines, almost like veins, but carved into her flesh like patterns. The human tried to scan her again, but the scanner blinked red, overloaded with unreadable signals. He cursed under his breath. His machine useless in the face of something beyond science. The girl turned her head sharply, her gaze landing on him. Her glowing eyes studied him as if she was seeing deeper than before. It made his chest tighten, like she could see his thoughts, his fears, his soul. Suddenly she flinched, gripping the ground with both hands. The soil beneath her fingers cracked, small roots pushing through unnaturally fast. The human stepped back, heart racing. Her body trembled. But she did not scream this time. Instead, she breathed deep, her chest rising like a wave. And with every breath, the air around her shimmered faintly. The forest responded once more. Plants leaned toward her as if reaching. Bird-like creatures cried out in unison and fled into the skies. The human whispered, "You're changing." But his voice felt small in the vastness of what was happening. The girl looked at her hands, glowing faintly. Her expression was filled with both fear and awe. She whispered words in her own tongue, trembling, though he could not understand. Her tone was clear. She was asking if she was still herself. The human knelt beside her, forcing calm into his voice. "You are still you," he said, though he did not believe his own words fully. Because deep inside, he feared she was becoming something more, or something else entirely. Her skin began to shift again, this time not from pain, but from power. The glow spread to her shoulders, down her spine. The air thickened, a faint buzzing returned, the same sound from the night before, the sound of wings. The human looked up sharply, scanning the trees, but no bees were there, only silence and the echo of that impossible sound. Then he realized it wasn't the forest, it was her. The buzzing was coming from within her body, resonating through her chest like a hidden hive. She gasped and clutched at her chest. Her heart thundered so loud that he could hear it. Not just hear, but feel it in his bones. He reached out, steadying her again. Her skin burned hot against his hand, yet he did not pull away. She leaned on him, her breath heavy. The glow in her eyes grew stronger, spilling golden light into the shadows, and in that moment, he realized something terrifying. The sting was not killing her, it was rewriting her, piece by piece, transforming her into something new, something connected to this alien world. The human's chest tightened with helplessness. He wanted to protect her, but how could he fight against something inside her blood? He whispered her name, grounding her to him. For a moment, her trembling stopped, her gaze softened. The human held onto that moment desperately, because he knew it would not last. The forest was no longer silent. The buzzing grew louder, this time echoing from all around them. The human looked into the trees, and he understood with a sinking heart. The sting was not just an accident, it was a call, and something out there was answering. The transformation, the forest grew restless. The buzzing sound that had started inside the girl's chest now filled the air around them. The human could not tell if the sound came from the trees or from her body. It was as if the whole jungle was vibrating to the rhythm of her heartbeat. He tried to calm his breath, but every second his fear grew heavier. The girl rose slowly to her feet. Her movements were no longer clumsy from pain. They were sharp, smooth, and almost unnatural. She stood taller than before, her back straight, her eyes glowing with golden fire. The human stepped back, his heart pounding. She was changing, and it was no longer subtle. Her skin shimmered with strange light, veins of gold crawling across her arms. Her voice escaped in a low gasp, filled with echoes that did not belong to her alone. It was as if something ancient spoke through her, something older than both their worlds. The human called her name, softly at first, then louder, but her head tilted toward him with an alien sharpness. Her eyes locked on him, familiar yet unfamiliar. For a moment he wondered if she still recognized him. Then her lips moved, and she whispered, "I hear them." The human froze. Hear who? Her gaze turned toward the deeper jungle. "The hive," she breathed, her voice trembling but steady at the same time. "They are calling me." Before he could respond, the ground shook beneath them. The roots of the forest twisted, moving. Like snakes, the plants bent in unison as if bowing to her presence. The human staggered back, trying to steady himself. His scanner beeped wildly, then flickered and died. No human technology could read what was happening. Only his eyes could, and what they saw left him shaken. The girl's body pulsed with waves of golden light. Every pulse made the jungle react. Flowers bloomed instantly in her presence. Insects swarmed close but did not sting. They circled her like loyal guards. She lifted her hand, and the swarm followed the movement. The human's throat tightened. She was commanding them without even trying. But her face was not filled with pride. It was filled with fear. She pressed her hands against her chest as if to hold herself together. "I can't stop it," she whispered. The human rushed forward, grabbing her shoulders. "You're stronger than this," he said, his voice trembling. But when he touched her, he felt a surge of energy rush through his arms. It burned, not enough to wound, but enough to warn him. She was no longer just the girl he knew. She was becoming something else, something powerful. Her breathing grew heavier, her back arched, as if something inside wanted to break free. The buzzing grew louder, filling the forest until it felt like thunder. The human covered his ears. But the sound was not only in the air, it was inside his skull. He dropped to his knees, gritting his teeth, but the girl stood tall, her voice rising over the sound. "I can feel them," she cried. "Every one of them." Her skin glowed so bright now that shadows fled from her body. Her hair lifted in the charged air. Her eyes burned like suns in the twilight of the jungle. The human stared in awe and terror. He wanted to run, yet he could not abandon her. This was not just transformation, it was awakening. The sting had not poisoned her, it had chosen her. The realization made his chest tighten. What kind of world had the bee come from, and why would it mark her like this? Suddenly she screamed, falling to her knees. The glow spread across her entire body in violent waves. The ground cracked beneath her, light seeping from the soil. The human reached for her, but the energy threw him back. He hit the ground, gasping for air, and when he lifted his eyes, what he saw froze him. The girl was rising again, but she was no longer trembling. Her skin gleamed with golden veins, her eyes burned brighter than before. The swarm of insects bowed low to her presence. Even the trees leaned toward her, their branches heavy with new blossoms. The transformation was complete. She was no longer just an alien girl. She was something more, connected, powerful, and terrifying. The human whispered to himself, his voice shaking, "She's becoming one of them." But even as the words left his lips, he knew it was not that simple. She was not fully them, not fully human. She was something caught in between, something the universe itself might fear. And deep in the jungle, the buzzing grew louder, not from her, not from the forest, But from countless wings approaching, the hive had heard her awakening, and now it was coming. Asterisk fear and wonder. The human stood frozen, his breath caught in his throat. The girl stood before him, glowing like a living star. Her body pulsed with alien power, her veins golden, her eyes burning with light. She looked both beautiful and terrifying, like something made to be worshipped, yet feared at the same time. He wanted to speak, but his voice failed him. His heart pounded, torn between running and staying. Every instinct told him to flee from this force he could not control. Yet another voice whispered that leaving her would mean losing her forever. He clenched his fists. Trapped between fear and loyalty, the girl turned slowly, her glowing eyes landing on him. For a moment his body stiffened. Her gaze was sharp, powerful, piercing through him as if he were transparent. He had seen those eyes before, but never like this. They were no longer just hers. They carried echoes of something greater, something that looked at him the way a storm looks at a leaf. Then her expression softened, just for a second. Her lips trembled, her voice came low. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered. The human felt his chest tighten. That was her voice, the voice he knew, hidden under the thunder. He stepped closer despite the heat radiating from her body. "You are still you," he said. But the words felt weak even to his own ears, because part of him was not sure if it was true. Suddenly her body jerked. The forest reacted again, branches twisting, roots splitting through the soil. A storm of insects rose from the ground, circling her in spirals. The human raised his arm, shielding his eyes. But he never looked away from her. Her glowing hair floated as if in water. The air vibrated with power. She spread her arms, and the swarm moved with her like an extension of her body. The human whispered, "She's not controlling them. She is them." A cold chill ran down his spine. He had traveled across many worlds, but never had he seen something like this. Never had he felt this mix of fear and awe tearing him apart. The girl lowered her hands. The insects settled around her like silent guardians. She looked down at her glowing skin, her face filled with both wonder and dread. "I can feel everything," she said, her voice trembling with awe. "The air, the soil, the hive calling me." Her words cut through the human like a blade, because he realized she was slipping further away, not just from him, but from herself. He stepped forward again, his voice stronger now. "Listen to me," he said. "You are more than this. Don't let it take you." But even as he spoke, he saw her struggling, her hands clenched, her breathing uneven. She was fighting herself, trapped between two worlds. One was the girl he knew, the other was the queen rising inside her. The buzzing grew louder again. This time it was not just in her body. It echoed from deeper in the jungle. The human's blood ran cold. The hive was coming. The girl's eyes widened as she felt it too. Her lips parted, her voice filled with fear. "They are close," she whispered. Her body shook, torn between excitement and terror. "I don't know if I can resist them." The human grabbed her hand, ignoring the burning heat of her skin. "You are not alone," he said firmly. Her glowing eyes flickered as if struggling to hold onto him. For a moment the power dimmed. For a moment she looked like the girl again. But the forest trembled. The sound of countless wings thundered in the distance. The hive was almost here. The human's heart pounded. He knew the next moments would decide everything. Would she stand with him, or would she become theirs? Fear twisted in his chest, but so did something else, wonder, because even in his terror, he knew he was witnessing something the universe had never seen before, and he was the only human alive to witness it. The alien hive, the jungle had grown silent. Only the deep buzzing in the distance filled the air. It was no longer faint, no longer hidden. It was growing louder, closer, heavier with each second. The human clenched his jaw, his instincts screaming to run, but the girl's glowing eyes turned toward the sound. Her body trembled as if drawn by invisible threads. "I can feel them," she whispered, her voice echoing strangely. "They are calling me." The human shook his head, stepping closer. "You don't have to answer," he said. But even as the words left his mouth, he knew she could not resist. Her body leaned forward as if her very blood pulled her deeper into the forest. And then, without warning, she began to walk. Her steps were steady, sharp, purposeful. The human hurried after her, his breath quick. "Wait," he called. "You don't know what's out there." But she did not stop. It was as if something greater than her own will was guiding her. They moved through twisting trees that seemed to shift aside for her. Vines pulled back, roots split open. The path opened like the forest itself wanted her to pass. The human's stomach twisted. He was not walking through the jungle. He was walking through a living doorway into the unknown. The buzzing grew so loud it shook his bones. The girl's glowing skin brightened in response. Her hand brushed the air, and insects swarmed around them. Yet none touched him. They only hovered, waiting, circling her like loyal soldiers. Her eyes flickered golden fire as she whispered, "They know me." At last they reached a clearing. The human froze at the sight before him. The ground dipped into a vast opening, a hole stretching deep into the earth. Golden light pulsed from below like the heartbeat of the planet. The walls of the opening were alive, built not of stone but of thick honeycomb, glowing veins running through it. Thousands of bees swarmed in and out, each one glowing with the same fire as the one that had stung her. The girl's body shook, her knees weakening. The human grabbed her arm, steadying her, but she pulled free, stepping closer to the edge. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "This is the hive." Her voice cracked, carrying awe and terror at once. The buzzing swelled like thunder, and the swarm began to shift. Bees circled down into the hole, parting like a curtain, revealing a path inside. The human skin crawled. Every instinct screamed at him to stay back. But the girl's glowing hand reached for him. "Come with me," she said. Her voice was both a plea and a command. His chest tightened. He could not abandon her. Not now, even if it meant stepping into a place no human had ever entered. They walked together down the path of living honeycomb, the air thick with sweetness and heat. The buzzing surrounded them from all sides. It was not just sound anymore. It was a vibration deep in his skull, almost like whispers. The human gritted his teeth, fighting to stay focused. But the girl walked with ease. Every step she took, the hive responded. The walls glowed brighter. The bees parted silently. They accepted her. They were waiting for her. Finally, they reached the heart of the hive, a massive chamber that pulsed with golden light. The walls glistened as if alive. The air was thick with power, and in the center rose something vast, a structure like a throne made of honey and bone. It pulsed as if alive, breathing. Pulsed as if alive, breathing. Girl fell to her knees, clutching her chest. Her voice shook as she whispered, "They want me to sit." The human's blood ran cold. His fists tightened at his sides. He could see it now. The sting was not just an accident, it was a choice. The hive had chosen her, not as prey, but as their queen. Asterisk, the choice. The chamber throbbed with golden light. Every surface pulsed as though the hive itself was alive. The human felt the vibration in his chest, in his bones, in his very heartbeat. It was not just sound anymore. It was a voice without words, a command without speech, and it was aimed at her. The girl stood trembling before the throne of honey and bone. Her glowing skin flickered brighter as if answering the call. She looked smaller in that vast chamber. Yet the bees swirled above her like worshippers awaiting their queen. Her breath came sharp, her lips trembling. "I can feel them inside my head," she whispered. "They want me to sit. They want me to lead." The human's chest tightened, his fists clenching. He stepped forward, his voice rough but steady. "You don't have to obey them," he said. "You are not their prisoner, you're more than this." But even as he spoke, he saw her struggling. Her body bent forward, pulled by invisible chains. The throne glowed brighter, as if begging her to come closer. The buzzing swelled until his ears rang with pain. She turned her glowing eyes on him, desperate and afraid. Her voice shook, layered with strange echoes. What if I can't resist? She asked, what if this is who I am now? The human stepped closer. Ignoring the heat in the swarm that buzzed angrily at his defiance, he placed a hand on her shoulder, burning against her skin. You are not a hive, he said firmly. You are you. Don't let them decide for you. Her eyes flickered, softening for a heartbeat, but the hive pushed harder. Images flashed in her mind. Endless skies filled with bees. Forests bending to her will. Power beyond imagination. She gasped, clutching her chest. I can rule them, she whispered, her voice almost not her own. I can become more than anyone has ever been. The throne's golden veins pulsed. Brighter, the bees bowed lower, their wings humming like drums. The choice pressed down on her like the weight of a planet. The human shouted over the noise, his voice breaking with emotion. Rule them if you must, but don't lose yourself. You are more than their queen. You are my friend. Her glowing hands trembled, torn between reaching for the throne or holding onto him. Tears burned her eyes even as light streamed down her skin. She fell to her knees, her scream echoing through the hive. The swarm trembled, waiting, silent, every wing frozen, every shadow listening. Finally, she lifted her head, her glowing gaze meeting his, her voice cracked but strong. I will not belong to them, she whispered. The hive roared in fury. The walls shuddering with power, the bees swarmed violently, the chamber vibrating like a storm. But she stood tall, defiant, her light flaring brighter. The throne pulsed wildly, demanding her obedience, and yet she turned away from it, toward him. The human's chest filled with relief, but also fear, because he knew the hive would not forgive defiance. And in the shadows of the chamber, the buzzing deepened into something darker. As if the true queen of the hive was awakening, something far greater than glowing bees and golden thrones, something that had been waiting for her choice. The girl's light dimmed slightly, her body shaking from the strain, but she reached out and grasped the human's hand. Her touch was burning, yet steady. I choose me, she said, her voice trembling but firm. I choose us. The human held her tightly, his fear drowned by determination. Whatever came next, they would face it together. But deep within the hive, a new sound rose, low, ancient, and filled with fury. The swarm trembled as the true queen stirred. Her choice had been made, and now the hive would answer. The new beginning. The hive shook as if struck by a storm. The honey walls rippled, glowing veins flickering like lightning. The swarm that once bowed now rose in fury, filling the chamber with a thunder of wings. The human held the girl close, shielding her even though he knew he could not stop what was coming. Her choice had been made, and the hive would not forgive. From the depths of the chamber, a shadow rose, huge, ancient, terrible. The true queen of the hive. Her body was vast, glowing with fire brighter than the girl's. Her wings stretched wide, casting the chamber in golden light. The swarm screamed, in one voice, bowing to their true mother. But the queen's burning eyes fixed only on the girl. The girl stood trembling but unyielding. Her glowing veins pulsed, her body still half bound to the hive. The queen's voice filled the chamber. Without sound, it was not words. It was pressure, a force pushing into their minds. Bow, the voice demanded. Bow and become what you were meant to be. The girl's knees buckled, sweat dripping down her face. But she shook her head slowly. I choose myself, she whispered, her voice breaking. Her light flared again, meeting the queen's pressure. Head on, the human gripped her hand tighter, his heart hammering. You're not alone, he said, his voice steady despite the storm. Together they stood, small against the vast queen. The swarm hissed, surging forward, but with a cry the girl raised her hand. A wave of golden light burst from her body. The swarm froze in midair, every bee trembling. The queen roared in silent rage, but her children no longer obeyed. They bent toward the girl, glowing, waiting. The hive itself trembled as if uncertain. Who it belonged to now? The queen struck, her massive form lunging forward. The human pulled the girl aside, the ground shattering where the queen's strike landed. Honey walls cracked, golden liquid spilling like rivers. The girl's glow flickered, but she rose again. Her eyes blazed brighter than ever before. She stepped forward, no longer trembling. "You gave me this power," she said, her voice strong. "But it is mine, not yours." She raised both hands, and her light exploded through the hive. The swarm cried out in one great voice, wings shattering the air. But instead of attacking, they bent low. They bowed, not to the ancient queen, but to her. The true queen screeched, her body trembling. Her power crumbled as the hive turned against her. The girl's light grew stronger, burning through the chamber until even the walls shone like stars. With one final scream, the ancient queen collapsed, her form dissolving into golden dust. The hive fell silent. The swarm hovered in stillness, and then, slowly, they drifted back into the depths. Peace returned, though the air still glowed with the girl's power. The human exhaled, his body trembling with exhaustion. He turned to her, his eyes wide. She looked back at him, her glowing skin dimming at last. Her eyes still burned faintly golden, but her face was hers again. "I chose us," she whispered, her voice soft. The human smiled faintly, relief flooding through him. "You saved them," he said. She shook her head gently. "No," she whispered, "we saved each other." They left the hive together. The forest outside bent toward her as she passed. But this time, the air felt calm, no longer pressing against them. The girl no longer trembled. She walked steady, her hand in his, her light no longer wild and dangerous. It was steady, controlled, alive. She was no longer just the girl who had been stung. She was something new, not human, not hive, but something in between, something the universe had never seen before. The human looked up at the alien sky. He felt the weight of what had happened settle on his shoulders. This was not the end. This was the beginning. Because if one sting could awaken her, then somewhere out there, others were waiting, other hives, other queens, other battles, and humanity would need her. Together, they would face what was coming. The girl squeezed his hand, her golden eyes steady on the horizon. "We are not done," she said softly. The human nodded, his heart steady. "At last." "No," he answered. "This is only the beginning."